Okay, so something out there doesn't want me to release this episode. Okay. Furthermore, something out there doesn't even really want me to conclude or finish a sentence or thought that is even close to being in the same vein as the overall motif of what this episode is about. An episode based on very real experiences that I've had, synchronistic experiences in the sober waking light of day. No, these weren't on psychedelics or anything like that. This was a part of my integration. And I've noticed that during said integration and stuff, or usually anytime I'm about to have an amazing spiritual breakthrough, there will be really intense, for me anyway, first world problems here, living in, America with not a lot of problems, so to speak. But there will be a lot of intense things that happen that really make me question my faith, make me question the whole spiritual path that I've been on, make me question God, myself, everything, right? There have been times where and this almost happened yesterday, where I want to take down my whole channel, and I feel like a fake, a phony, a fraud. No one is resonating with what I'm saying, and I'm likely being tricked anyway. I start going down this rabbit hole of like, hey, this is all a joke. This is all an ego thing. You're being tricked. Not a lot of people are resonating anyway. And so it's like, what's the big deal? Take it down. All you're doing is pounding your chest and saying, hey, look how enlightened I am. It's all an ego thing. Take it down. That was part of what happened in the past, I would say 2 weeks for me here. This has really been like a 2.5 week kind of episode of really intense things that have gone down. And that was just one of them. I also, as of yesterday, dabbled in something that I haven't dabbled in a long time, y'all, in terms of a dark place that I used to go to and I hadn't been to in a while. And I went there, and it was a very, very, very bad day for me yesterday. Very bad. But I started recognizing this signature of, this always seems to happen. Now, granted, this time it's different. It's a lot more intense. I mean, like I said, I did something yesterday that could have and would have been the end of everything for me, everything. And again, I noticed that there's this pattern, and I know that spiritual warfare is a real thing. And I know that whenever I'm on the verge of something true and something amazing and something groundbreaking and such like that the opposing forces seem to ratchet up everything. It's like fire all your cannons at Andrew. And so there's a couple things. There's a couple ways to react to that, right? There's the warrior kind of mentality of like, hey, I just got punched in the nose. I always talk about that when I talk about boxing with people, is of how boxing is a really good analogy for life. It's like you get punched in the nose. What do you do next? Do you go and cry in your corner and say, I quit? I'm done. I got popped. It hurts, and I'm done. Or does getting popped in the nose wake you up and make you want to charge in and throw some more haymakers? And I almost quit in my corner yesterday, y'all. But again, and I know I'm repeating myself here, recognizing the pattern and knowing that this means that something I'm about to disclose, or something that I'm about to think, or something that I'm about to experience, or whatever the case may be, is so important that the other side is trying to take me down. And it's very obvious, y'all, that the other side is trying to take me down. It's so incredibly obvious to me now. And this thing that I am tiptoeing around, right? I'm beating around the bush about of what is this amazing revelation, this truth, this whatever that would cause such a stir in the enemy and cause such a stir in me. Because make no doubt about it, the enemy runs right down the middle of everyone's heart. Everyone's. It's right inside of you. And so what is it? What is it that's so dangerous here? It's something that I've been fighting for about 3 years, ever since I found God. So, for 27 years of my life before that, I didn't believe in God. And then you go from a whole lifetime of thinking that God is a joke, y'all, and thinking that there is no such thing as, there's nothing beyond science and reason and stuff like that, right? There's really nothing. And then when you sit down face to face with a cosmic, hyper-cosmic being, okay, that is speaking to you in thought that is so clear that it might as well be English. I mean, that's basically what it was, but it was definitely in thought. And it was a thought that was absolutely separate and apart from your own. Like it's you can't confuse it with your own thoughts. There are times when you're not deep enough into a psychedelic experience or whatever that you can question of like, was that me who just made that thought, or who just said that in my own head, or was that this being that I'm seeing? When you're deep enough in, y'all, there is no question. There is no doubt. And so whenever you sit across from something that is utterly indescribable, the only way you can describe it is symmetry and geometry and love and beauty. That's the best I could do. When you sit across something like that, y'all, it might as well be God. Okay? And for me, that's what it is for me. It's something so powerful and so beyond me that it might as well be God. And I treat it as such. This thing has never looked me in the face and told me that he is God or that it is God. It doesn't have a gender, y'all. It embodies masculine and feminine qualities, sometimes at the same time, but they flow in and out. You can't slap a label on it, in my opinion. You cannot. Again, though, when something looks you in the face like that and unveils these cosmic mysteries that there's no way that you would have hatched in your own head, right? And then reveals and tells you all these secrets of the universe and secrets of existence and secrets of life, and then wheels out these cosmic synchronicities that reach all the way down into your life. And then it predicts things, right? It tells you stuff that happened in your family 100 years ago that you then find out did happen, and stuff like that. To me, it's like these are powers that are so far beyond comprehension for me that, again, it might as well be God. And so seeing that and seeing that it was something that was set apart for me, like I'm looking at something that is not me, right? And talking to something that is not me. It really kind of like, I don't know, contributes to this idea of a personal God. Okay, it's like, again, this is something outside of me that's seems infinitely powerful. And I'm communicating with it and all this other stuff. And it's like, I bow to this. Like, this is not me, and I bow to it. But accompanied with these mystical psychedelic experiences is this the sense of oneness, the sense of the collective, right? The all. A lot of Hermetic philosophy types and New Age mystics and everything like that will refer to the all, right? And all of the all is interconnectedness. That's it, y'all. It's as simple and as complex as that is. And I say complex because it goes against common convention of, in your regular sober waking light of day life, you can see and feel that you are distinct from other people and other things and so on and so forth. And there's something that happens scientifically. We can say that it's the the kind of the quieting or the dismantling, if you want to refer to it like that, of the default mode network in your brain, which is highly related to your sense of self, right? When that gets kind of obliterated, when the gamma in your brain, like the high energy brain waves in your brain, kind of obliterate that network. I mean, temporarily, albeit, you kind of the stage gate gets removed, and you see the interconnectedness with everything, and that's why psychedelic experiences are really just a giant synchronicity. Synchronicity, all in the sober waking light of day, shows a hidden interconnectedness with things and people and energies and all this other stuff. And then when you take psychedelics, you kind of realize that all of existence is that. And depending on how far you go in, when you come off of that, you still, your brain is still going through neurogenesis and stuff. And there's a lot of those echoes of this interconnectedness still there. And you still see, you do eventually come off of that, experience. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're constantly living in this psychedelic trip, but the tendrils of the residue of that experience is still kind of there when you're fresh off of an experience, and you see these interconnected moments, and you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together and realize that this is all just an interconnected all. And that's when you realize, of course, that life is that in general. It's like psychedelics or not. Whatever molecule you are filtering reality through, whether it's DMT or serotonin or whatever the cocktail of molecules that are being passed in between the synapses of your brain right now that are filtering your reality, and feel and see once you've opened up that window in your mind that it all is interconnected. And of course, this kind of goes against my whole thought of this entity that I've seen. It's so apparent to me that it's separate from myself and everything. But if that, motif reigns supreme of interconnectedness, that means that this being that I'm talking to is not separate from me either. That not only am I interconnected with it, but it is me. And that's one of the biggest things that I have been wrestling with, because the skeptic, the rationalist, the person that believes in no kind of form, shape, form, or fashion of mysticism or anything kind of magical or spiritual, that's their answer for all of this, is that you're not talking to anything special. You're just talking to a cordoned off part of your own psyche. And that's why it seems separate to you. There, these stage gates that you say get obliterated because of gamma in your brain and everything. All that is doing is offering a nice, comfortable. I'll say comfortable. It's a lot of times very uncomfortable. But it's when I say comfortable, I mean it's throwing something over the fence. It's like, hey, that's not me. Okay, it offers you this excuse in a way to treat something differently, to treat something as if it's not you. Okay. And you could argue that that's kind of what psychedelics does. It lets your subconscious kind of come in and say, hey, you've squashed these thoughts and these ideas for so long, and now we're going to deal with them. And if you want to treat this as a separate kind of thing that's not really you, that's even better, so that you can, maintain your cognitive dissonance in a way, even though that obliterating your cognitive dissonance and facing the fact that it is you is kind of the whole point of it all anyway. And that's what I'm kind of realizing. And that's why I'm kind of sitting down making this episode right now in this long-winded, wangly, constantly contradicting myself fashion. But back to my point, it's annoying to talk to these people, these rationalists, these live by the sword, die by the sword, science has all the answers and all this other stuff. And it's impossible that you're talking to an ethereal, immortal, being of light and love and symmetry, because those things don't exist. That's fairy tale kind of nonsense. And the human brain through 3.5 billion, that's billion with a B, 3.5 billion years of evolution is theoretically capable of fabricating and making up such amazing imagery and stuff like that, y'all. And even stuff like synchronicity and all this other stuff, which has its own rationalist trapdoor of, an explanation, to where it's nothing magical at all. But even if it was quote unquote magical, it could still be a byproduct of 3.5 billion years of something that we only kind of can explain, which is evolution, right? In a lot of ways, 3.5 billion years can be just as awe-inspiring and amazing, and fall down onto your knees and cry because of something is so beautiful. It's just as you could imagine it. I know differently now, by the way, but I'm telling you that theoretically, you could fall down on your knees if you had the knowledge and understanding of that 3.5 billion years of evolution. You could fall down on your knees and cry tears of beauty and joy with the exact same amount of fervor of falling on your knees and crying with infinite love and joy of having a God experience. And so what I'm saying is 3.5 billion years is a insanely big freaking cosmic number that humans cannot comprehend, just like humans cannot comprehend the totality and wholeness of God. And y'all, I don't know what I'm saying here. I keep going off on these tailspins and I'm not getting to the point. All I'm trying to communicate to you here is that it's very hard, very incredibly hard for me. And it's an ego thing, totally straight up. I'll fully admit it. It's an ego thing. And it's so hilarious because it's a joke, because it's so not an ego thing, but is at the same time. And let me kind of elucidate my point here. It's very, very hard for me to meet someone like that halfway and say, you're right, man. It's me. I'm talking to me. I'm looking at myself and I'm talking to me. It is very incredibly freaking hard for a recovering atheist and nihilist on top of the nihilism is far worse than atheism, y'all. Far worse. Believe me when I say that. It's very hard for someone who has had their life and soul rescued from an infinite void, y'all, by this being that sat across from him and talked and had these amazing conversations with. It is incredibly difficult and heartrending to sit there and acknowledge, yes, I agree with you. That thing that was sitting in front of me was me. Y'all, I can't tell you how pissed off that makes me. And that's just, y'all, that's just the atheist, nihilist, rationalist, science worshiper types that will laugh in your face when you say anything mystical or something like that. That's just them. Okay, y'all, it's a whole nother ball game when we're talking about these, and I say these, please don't twist this in the wrong way here, because by the end of this podcast, or even by the middle of it, or hopefully soon, hopefully I get to the point at some point here, I'm going to be meeting y'all more than halfway. I'm not fully all the way there, okay, with the New Age mysticism types that say that we are God. I'm not fully all the way there, okay? But some things have happened recently, very recently, that are pointing me in that direction. Okay, and so it's very hard. It's hard enough to meet the atheists and nihilists and rationalists halfway and say, yes, I was talking to me. But to me, it's another ball game and another level of intensity, because these people that I talk about, the New Age mystics and stuff, they believe in God, but they think, and again, I say they, reluctantly, I'm just stick with me. Okay. I'm going to have to say the words they and stuff like that. Okay. So just deal with me. Don't get pissed off yet. They think that that's the end all be all. It's like, hey, the God is real. God does exist. Yes, but he is us. Period. That's it. That's the whole story. He is us. We are him. There's a lot of magic and amazing stuff that can be implied therein, but for anyone who's looking, as I am, to maintain a degree of sanctity, to maintain a pedestal on which it's like, hey, there's an ideal to aspire to. Now that I believe in Jesus, it's like Jesus, you have to think of him as God. You kind of have to, but that there's a pitfall in that makes it makes something unattainable. It makes something unreachable, and that's not what Jesus was about at all. If you go and read his what he said, apparently, like I still wrestle with the thoughts and the ideas of like taking the Bible seriously and stuff, but a lot of the Bible has been happening synchronistically in my life, and so there has to be a degree of truth to it, right? So I have to look at some of the stuff, at least, that Jesus said and treat it as truth, right? But if you're looking at what Jesus said, y'all, a lot of what he said is that it's not unattainable. In fact, that's what the man was all about. The man was 100% all about, this is for you, ladies and gentlemen. The kingdom of God, being on equal footing, maybe not equal, I'm still not all the way there, y'all, but being on at least similar footing with God is enough. When we're talking about the infinite here, being on similar footing with God, you had better believe is enough. Okay. And so when a force, you can call him God, you can call him man, you can call him whatever you want to call him. But when something looks at you and says that you can be on a similar footing with God, that says it all, ladies and gentlemen. There literally is nothing else that needs to be said in this whole podcast that I'm about to wheel out, because I'm going to continue to talk about this amazing revelation. You better believe I'm going to continue to talk about it. But right there, for all of the mystical, New Age mystical types who understand and know it, because this is where I'm meeting you halfway and meeting you more than halfway. For all of you who know the reality of what that means and what I just said, I don't know how to finish that sentence. You know what's up. A living God, y'all. And if you're going to subscribe to Christianity, certain sects of parts or whatever versions of it, and if you want to treat God, the God of Abraham, and therefore Jesus, as the God of all gods, it's like if there ever was a God of gods, it's them. And if you were to believe that Jesus was God, y'all, this means that God is looking at you and saying, you are me, I am you. That's what's going on here. And so, what is my evidence of this? Why am I so convinced? Well, it's because, y'all, Jesus Christ was the biggest joke of this whole equation for me. And I've mentioned this in my last couple episodes and stuff like that. And it bears repeating, though, because it's the joke of it. God looked me in the face and said that life is a joke, and he started pointing out all these amazing ways of how that's the truth and everything. And, don't think of jokes as a ha-ha silly thing. Think of them as this amazing poetry. The word joke takes on a whole nother meaning. There's a setup, y'all, and there's a punchline. The setup is, there so that the punchline can tie everything back together. They feed off of each other. They're critical. You can't have one without the other. And so here I am losing my train of thought again, y'all. I'm really trying my best not to stop and go and start writing something. I want to speak from the heart on this one, because it's very critical that I do so, and it's very important, the message. But okay, what was I talking about? The joke. Oh, it's the riddle, right? Jesus was the easiest part of this equation to laugh off as a fairy tale joke. And the past 3 months or so for me, 3 or 4 months, have been these amazing Jesus moments where it's like, oh, wow, it's just as intense and just as real as any of my, what I call realer than real psychedelic experiences that always have these overlapping synchronistic validations that come afterwards so that you know that they are real. I had that and then some, and you would argue even more so with the likes of Jesus Christ. And it's made me a full-on believer, y'all, but I still hesitate to believe in the canonical Jesus in terms of everything that was said about him in the Old Testament or New Testament. I still don't know where to place the Bible, y'all. I'm going to try my best to get answers on that, specifically on my next psychedelic experience. But Bible aside, y'all, here are the latest things that I've been getting about Jesus Christ. And sorry that it's taking me 30 minutes to get to the point here, but I had to kind of talk about the seriousness of the implications of everything that's involved here. But Jesus has been reaching out to me and has been communicating with me, and it's very evident and apparent. Again, go listen to the last few episodes on my podcast, and it's absolutely undeniable in my opinion. I totally understand the rationalist explanation out of this, and I agree with you, but I also agree with the truth that is resonating in my life. And y'all, to have a cosmic being, because I know Jesus to be cosmic, okay? I know him to be cosmic because being just a man, okay, I find it impossible for just a man, okay, to reach across dimensions and time. And I mean, if we are to believe the narrative and stuff, Jesus died, something like 2,000 years ago. All right. So to be able to reach across 2 millennia, okay, reach across languages that hadn't even been invented, reach across languages that haven't even been invented yet. Okay, reach across dimensions, right? Because certainly Jesus was not flesh and blood, in human form talking to me when he did talk to me. To reach across all of those impossible feats, y'all, time, dimension, language barriers, etc. You can't be just a human being and do that. Now, the big joke about this, y'all, is that you can. You can just be a human being and do that. And that's part of this riddle and this amazing thing that I'm getting at. But to have a cosmic force like that, y'all, if we are to believe the miracles that he performed in the Bible and stuff like that, then you better believe that this dude was a cosmic being. And I know him to be a cosmic being because, like I said, all of those things that he was able to reach across and communicate with me, despite all of the insurmountable odds and insurmountable, how do you do that, y'all? How do you do that? Unless you're a friggin' cosmic, hypercosmic, beyond hypercosmic spiritual force. But to have that look at you in the face and say that if I can do it, you can do it. And I've finally gotten to my point, y'all, after 30 minutes. When you are going through the worst struggle of your life, trying to overcome addiction that is 100 years in the making, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm to believe the traumas that my family went through, traumas that were so severe and so terrible, I had to yell at my aunt and my cousin to get them to shut up because I promised God that I wouldn't investigate the terrible things that happened to my uncle, my great uncle. I had to yell at my aunt and my cousin and tell them to stop. I can't hear anymore. I promised God. And the things that they said, y'all, were terrible. I didn't even hear the whole story. I didn't even hear how my uncle factored into it specifically. When you are wrestling with generational scarring on levels of that magnitude, and God tells you that these are scars that are passed down and that our scars are important, and what you do with your scars is everything. And when these scars, like I said, are still, you're trying to heal from them. And just like that analogy I said in a couple episodes ago with addiction, and how it's like this parasite with these claws and talons, and then on those claws and talons are barbs that are facing in the opposite direction, so that whenever you try to rip out the talon, the barbs get stuck in your skin, and then you have to go searching around for these barbs. And it's akin to having mosquito bites, because it feels good to scratch these mosquito bites, even though it's not pleasure, y'all. It's a release of pain. And we have confused the release of pain, okay, the relief of pain. We have confused that with pleasure. And so I was over there just covered in so many mosquito bites, and just, you know, festering. These mosquito bites were just festering and pussing over, and I'm over there to scratch and scratch. Oh, I love it. And when I'm at the peak of that struggle, when I realize that I am entering a portal through which it's serious. Like you are entering into a spiritual realm where you can't be monkeying around with these stupid little silly mosquito bites. One of these mosquito bites is going to be the one that takes you down. One of these is going to be malaria. One of these is going to be West Nile. One of these is I think there was one called Zika or something like that. One of these mosquito bites is going to get your ass. This is not this is not a silly little teenage game of, oh, that's a hot woman. Let me get on the internet and find more hot women like her, and let me escalate this into a place where it's starting to get so serious and dark, where it's going to start ruining lives. When I'm facing that, and when you're talking about the likes of the BTK killer, y'all, kept making an appearance after appearance during this time of knocking on my door, and I kept getting, was it John 10 verse 10? The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Y'all, when the BTK killer, whose terrible things that he's done in his life are within the same freaking cardiovascular vein, it's within the same vein, y'all, is what I'm trying to say, of pornography addiction. Straight up, I'm telling any male out there that has a bad enough pornography addiction, where your next fix is going to get a little more risque and a little bit more dangerous, y'all, you are heading down that path whether you want to or not. Straight up. And maybe the scars that you have aren't sufficient enough to where you would go as far as the BTK killer and stuff, y'all. But it is, I am telling you, it is in the same vein. This is stuff that you do not freaking screw around with. We're talking mass murder, rape, mutilation, cannibalism, necrophilia. You can go down the list, y'all. It is in the same freaking vein. It does not get any more freaking serious than that. It does not get any more serious than that. I'm telling you right now. It's the most serious thing you can possibly imagine. It is not a freaking joke. It is the furthest thing from a joke that you can possibly imagine. Possibly. And there are cosmic forces that are competing to rip you apart. The bad ones are trying to rip you apart. And then rip everyone else apart in the pursuit of sticking a giant middle finger in the face of God. That is what we are talking about. And there are cosmic things afoot that we are caught up in. And is it unfair? Yes, I think it is. Sure, if we want to say, if we want to throw up our hands at God and say, this is not fair that we're caught up in the middle of this. Okay, sure, I'll meet you halfway and I'll say that it doesn't seem fair to me either. I don't think it's cool either. But whether it's cool or whether it's fair, this is what it is. We have found ourselves in this mess. I don't know how. We can go look at the silly little stories in Genesis and treat them either as metaphorical or as real. I don't care. No one truly freaking knows how we got in this mess and how we're going to get out. I have a really, really good idea of how we're going to get out. And it is through what the man, y'all, I want to stress that right now. It is what the man, Jesus Christ, told me the day that I was at the peak of my suffering. I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to two podcasts, actually. It was the day before I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Lex Friedman or something like that. And there was a guy on there talking about stories and how stories go through basically their own form of the theory of evolution, right? It's like everything that we hold to be true and sacred and stuff like that is a product or a byproduct of evolution of stories that either resonate or don't resonate, and how the most successful stories dominate, just like the most successful species with the most successful adaptations for their environment dominate. It's survival of the fittest. If there's a story it's very easy to shoot holes in, and it's very easy to rip apart and be like, that's not true, they don't survive. And if there's a story that it may be true, but it's not compelling or something like that, also doesn't really survive. It's the stories that are compelling, that are gripping, that are amazing, that inspire, that do all this stuff, y'all, but also you can't shoot holes in. That's what gets fed. That's what survives, y'all. That's what flourishes and thrives. Everything that we do, everything that we know and trust and live is a story, y'all. The fiat currency system that our whole economy is based on is a giant story. It's not backed by anything substantial other than the story that America is good. That's basically it. That we are solvent enough to maintain, that there's a trust in our economy and in our the American story. It's a trust that the American story is viable and good. And that is what the entirety of a lot of the world currency is based on, because again, the world currency is the US dollar. Just about any currency, any country worth their salt has their currency backed up by the US dollar, and that's because the US dollar used to be backed up by gold, and it was a solid investment. It was a solid basis and stuff like that. It made it very easy in case, anyway, yada, yada, yada. The gold standard is now done for, but all these countries still have reserves in US dollars. And so it's now based on trust and a story of the American system. And so stories, y'all, are so powerful that if this story started to fall apart, the entire world economy would fall apart and people would die in droves. This is how powerful stories are. And I heard that podcast right on the heels of another podcast. It's one of my favorites now. It's called Hidden Brain. And this was right at the same time that I had this, John 10, verse 10, the thief at the door versus Jesus at the door. It was right at the same time. It was triangulating right in the moment. And I didn't mention this part of the story because I'd already had so much content, that I needed to break it up into a different episode because this one is a doozy, y'all. The episode was about cognitive dissonance, which is the most important stories that we tell ourselves and each other. Mostly we tell, well, it's how do I explain this? The importance seems more important, the stories that we tell other people, right? But the real importance lies in the stories that we tell ourselves. And cognitive dissonance, for those who don't know what it is, because I didn't really know what it is. I just heard it thrown around when intellectuals are debating. It's like, I knew it to be a negative thing, like a fallacy or something like that. And the two intellectual people are debating, like, oh, you're engaging in cognitive dissonance fallacy. And so that's kind of the extent that I knew it. It's like, hey, it's like when someone is being an idiot, kind of, someone usually says, hey, you're engaging in cognitive dissonance. What it really is, y'all, it's something that we all do. Every single one of us, every single person on the planet is engaging in some degree of cognitive dissonance, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, or whether it's you only have one area in your life where you're engaging in this, or you are living a stacked Russian doll kind of, version of cognitive dissonance, is where it's just like so many stories on top of each other. But cognitive dissonance, y'all, is that it's a story. It is a story that we tell ourselves and others, but most importantly, ourselves, to shore up and to reconcile our own inherent contradictions, our own inherent, what's the word I'm looking for? It's on the tip of my tongue. Presque-vous right now. It's happening. Hypocrisy. There it is. Hypocrisy. Very, very, very important word and concept right now. Hypocrisy. There are things that people do, y'all, in their lives where they feel ashamed at what they've done, and it's something bad. They did something bad and they feel ashamed. And they build a narrative, a story around what they did that was bad that justifies, it offers a way to make them feel like they're still still a good person. Okay? It offers a way out of honestly going and killing yourself, because there's a lot of people who have done a lot of terrible things. And if we didn't have, honestly, this gift of cognitive dissonance in which you tell yourself a story, whether that story is true or not is immaterial. You're telling yourself a story that these are the reasons that I did this. Not only is the thing that I did, like there's some part, ways of engaging in cognitive dissonance where you simultaneously, tear down the importance and the severity of the act that was committed, right? It's like, first of all, it's not that big a deal what I did. Second of all, this is why I did it. It's like this, there's so many ways to attack that to make it look a lot less impactful and a lot less serious as the actual black and white facts of the thing that you did. And everybody engages in this, y'all. Everybody. And the psychologist who did the work, the pioneering work on cognitive dissonance on this podcast, he was quick to point out that most of the time it's kind of innocuous and not that big of a deal. Like a lot of these games that we play, a lot of these stories that we tell ourselves that are bridging the gap of hypocrisy in our own life, it's usually, if you kind of step back and look at it, not that big of a deal. Like, hey, you cut someone off in traffic, right? And it's like, okay, this happens all the time. It's not that big of a deal. And so you build, but regardless, you build this cognitive dissonance story as to why it's okay for you to do that. And this was an isolated incident and such. But again, when you look at the offense, which is cutting someone off in traffic, not a big deal. It's not like you went out and committed genocide, right? And I do a long pause there, y'all, because cognitive dissonance, you had better believe is still applicable when we talk about stuff like genocide. If you don't think, y'all, that Adolf Hitler and all of the Nazi, regime and all that stuff, the cadre there, and then any of the really intense followers underneath them. I mean, there was a big chunk of people that were caught up in their own cognitive dissonance where they weren't supporters, but they were in the Nazi party and they were just along for the ride. And their cognitive dissonance was, well, hey, look, I'm an innocent bystander here. I'm just going with the flow. I really don't want people to die and all this other stuff, all this terrible stuff. That's their cognitive dissonance, y'all. But the likes of Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, the people pulling the trigger in the concentration camps, people sending people into the gas chambers and burning people and all this other stuff, y'all. Everyone involved had their own game of cognitive dissonance playing, and you'd better believe that there are extremes of extremes. But regardless, this guy pointed out for your average person, it's not the extreme of extremes. But things become a bigger problem and stuff whenever there are broad swaths of humanity that get involved, right? And so again, the whole Nazi thing comes to mind, but this cognitive psychologist came up with this concept of using the knowledge of what cognitive dissonance is and using it, kind of turning it on its ear and using its own energy to produce good, right? And to increase, usually people are, it's a dissolving of responsibility. But in a way, if you know how the mechanics of cognitive dissonance works, you can use it to kind of absorb its own energy and deflect the energy back in on itself to increase accountability, to increase truth and honesty, and to where you are visually seeing your own hypocrisy and becoming aware of it and using that as, okay, well, I'm going to do the right thing here, right? And the way this guy was able to do it was he was working at this university at the time in California, and they were going through a severe drought. And it's a pretty liberal campus where he was working, and a lot of environmentally conscious and aware people and wanting to do the right thing for the environment. Yet at the same time, during a drought, when they're supposed to be conserving water, these people are not cutting back on their showers. They did a study, and these people were taking these long showers, most of the people, and it was kind of like this dissolving, what's the word I'm looking? Diffusion of responsibility. It's like everyone else should all these people individually understood the importance of conserving water and taking shorter showers. And they were kind of hoping that everyone else was doing it while they took their own long showers. It's kind of a form of cognitive dissonance here. And so this professor came up with this idea. And again, it's the professor who founded the concept of cognitive dissonance, right? He and did all the research and stuff on it. So he thought to himself, how is it that I can make people aware of their own hypocrisy and make them stand up and, call themselves out and kind of bridge that gap of hypocrisy within themselves and get them to stand up and own up and live in truth, right? Which, by the way, I hope everyone can kind of clue in and understand that that's kind of what life is and how we should all be kind of living our lives, and what we should be aspiring to is checking our own hypocrisies and living in truth, and having that be a inspirational thing for others to want to do the same thing. And next thing you know, we're all living in truth and being honorable and respectful and honest with each other. And only good things can come from that. Only good things. Anyone who says that bad things will come from that, y'all, they're not paying attention. They're not living truth. Okay. But anyways, that aside, that's kind of the ideal that this guy had in his head. Let me figure out a way to spin this concept around on itself to where it feeds its own truth and increases accountability across the board for everyone involved, the whole group and every individual in the group. And he came up with this concept of, okay, I'm going to make these posters and I'm going to have these students write their names in all capital letters on this poster that says, I am taking shorter showers, essentially, right? And at the very bottom of these posters was this tagline that it said something to the effect of, conserve water, take shorter showers, and then, semicolon, if I can do it, you can do it. And it worked. Something in that equation worked to where people, stood up and took onus, and they couldn't live with the fact that they put their names on a poster for everyone to read, and the whole if I can do it, you can do it thing. But then if you go home and you don't do it, that seemed to be some kind of something in there made it to where they couldn't live with themselves. And they did a follow-up study, and they saw that in fact, anyone who had put their name on there was taking shorter showers, and long after the fact that they put their name on there. So there was something about all of that where responsibility increased across the board and kind of threw a wrench into this whole cognitive dissonance. Not necessarily did that, but used its own energy against itself to produce more responsibility. But it was the phrase, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's the part that really leapt out at me that I remembered the most, because it's right in that moment. I've been listening to this episode, and I've been basically hearing the words of Jesus Christ to me. Jesus had well established that he could speak through people to me. I have so much evidence of that. Y'all, go back and listen to my past 4 episodes, and you'll hear that evidence. So to me, it doesn't sound like a crazy thing at all, even though to you it might. To me, it's completely normal and viable and true, definitely. And so I'm getting these vibes. I'm feeling this voice calling through the both dimensions and time and language, as I'd mentioned before, speaking directly into my soul right in this moment where I am having the worst conflict of cognitive dissonance that I could possibly imagine. Here I am, having done all this terrible stuff with my pornography addiction, and I'm over here pretending to be a good person and, having a podcast about God and Jesus when I still have skeletons in my closet and stuff. It was a very jarring moment. And so to hear my own cognitive dissonance play out in this episode, because I couldn't help but acknowledge it. It was like, holy crap, I have so much cognitive dissonance. I'm basically, my whole life, my whole story is just one big cognitive dissonance game. And for a voice to reach through all of that and tell me and look me in the face and say, the answer, the solution to your cognitive dissonance, the solution to your life, the way to step through the fog of your hypocrisy and live in truth that is inspiring for others, is the concept of, if I can do it, you can do it. And what he was saying in that also, y'all, is that if he could do it, I could do it. That's the whole thing that trips me up about this is, y'all, someone that I considered a living God was looking me in the face and saying, hey, Andrew, this porn addiction thing, guess what? I was a red-blooded male human being, and I had the exact same carrots and sticks. Now they're slightly different, but the exact same kind of desires and stuff, y'all, were present 2,000 years ago as they were now. And this man was looking through space and time and language and dimension, looking at me in the face and saying, if I can do it, you can do it. And the story doesn't stop there. Y'all, I mean, right after hearing that, I mean, I was blown away, first of all, after hearing that. But I was in the parking lot of this catering event that I was there to help support. You know, my wife is the director of catering for this awesome restaurant, and I help her out with catering events. So I was in the parking lot listening to this. I had showed up early, finished listening to that, heard that amazing, sentence, if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm in deep thought about that. As I walk into the catering event, I'm helping, I call her the Michelangelo of buffet setup, right? She's an artist. And she sets up these buffet displays that are just amazing. It's like you don't even want to go up and start eating anything because it's so beautiful. It's a work of art. And so she put me in charge of putting these like tiny little miniature corn things, the tiny little corns. And she's like, hey, have the top, the pointy parts just facing up and set it up in this kind of arrangement that looks pretty. I'm like, okay, cool. I was trying to do it and I couldn't quite get it right. And I went up to her and I was like, hey, the things aren't really standing up straight and I can't blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Andrew, you can figure it out. Like just try it a couple more times. I had to figure it out. I learned it myself. Hey, look, if I can do it, you can do it. And y'all, I'm not joking around. This is 5 minutes after I heard this in the car. Now, I don't know how many times a day that you hear the phrase, if I can do it, you can do it. For me, it happens like, you're not like keeping a running list of every time you hear this, right? But if I were to venture a guess, you probably hear, if I can do it, you can do it, probably like twice or 3 times a year. Okay. It's not a very common thing. I got it twice within 5 minutes. And then the next day I did a camera interview, like a video interview with this client of mine. And she was talking about, it's this a community for, it's a charity community for people with special needs. And she was talking about how these, the people with special needs are always so happy and so thrilled and just beaming with happiness all the time. And they love people, and how that's she looks at that and thinks to herself, like, why is it that people have negative reactions to other people when here are these people that have been dealt this terrible hand in life that have such a beautiful and awesome and positive outlook. And she said on camera to me that, like, a day after I had experienced all this, if I can do it, you can do it stuff, she was like, yeah, I look at this and I think to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. And I about dropped the camera out of my hands. And I had to tell her the story because I could tell that she was a religious person. I kind of dove into the whole thing. And we had this amazing conversation. So it's not based on just a couple of instances, y'all. There was another couple of other instances that happened, in the days following after that. So there was like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 instances within like 3 or 4 days of each other, y'all, where I kept hearing, if I can do it, you can do it. It was absolutely freaking amazing. And the implications of this and the everything about this it's just unbelievably amazing. And again, Jesus Christ, y'all, had well established that he is life. Okay. That whenever I'm talking to people, I'm talking to him, and vice versa, all this stuff, right? And of course, if you're a thinking person, the New Age mystical types that have this idea that we are all God and stuff, maybe you already know what I'm talking about, and God bless you because you're in the correct mindset. But for those of you who don't know, this is God, y'all, saying, if I can do it, you can do it. Now, this is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal, okay? Because if I'm a heroin addict and I have a friggin' heroin needle sticking out of my arm, and I'm on the street in the gutter convulsing, having just injected heroin into my veins, and the Queen of England walks by, and I know she's dead, just if she was alive, the Queen of England walks by, looks me in the face and says, "Hey, buddy, you need to stop doing heroin, okay? If I can refrain from doing heroin, you can, okay? If I can do it, you can do it." Y'all, not only am I going to laugh in the Queen's face, but I'm also going to, tell her to go do something to herself, okay? Because clearly the carrots and sticks that produced the Queen of England are not the same carrots and sticks of a person on the street with a heroin needle sticking out of their veins, convulsing, having just shot up. Okay, completely different upbringing, completely different thing. Y'all, I don't even want someone to come around and say, well, no, there's no way that she had the same temptations or the same kind of brutality in their life. There's no way. And she's royalty, y'all. And if you want to talk about royalty, something that has been touted as the King of Kings, the ultimate uber royalty, if that thing, like I said, this cosmic force that is Jesus, that is God, if that thing is looking you in the face and saying, if I can do it, you can do it, the only way okay, so would we be in agreement that if God was real and if Jesus was real, that they would say stuff that's important, and that they would say stuff that's true, and that they would say stuff that is life-changing? The only way that if I can do it, you can do it is inspiring, life-changing, important, any of that, y'all. The only way that it means anything is if Jesus Christ was say it with me, all of the New Age mystics. Jesus Christ was a human being. A human being that was subject to the exact same temptations. And I don't care if it was 2,000 years ago, y'all, they still had versions of pornography 2,000 years ago. And they had prostitution amok, like run amok. They had their ways. It's a different kind of depravity or whatever than it is nowadays, but you can't turn off the desire for human beings just because it's 2,000 years ago. People are going to find a way to get their fix. Y'all, the same temptation and the same level of temptation existed back then when Jesus Christ was stomping around as a human being. And this, of course, changes the game, y'all, in such an unbelievably beautiful way, because it reinforces and doubles down on the fact that Jesus is Maverick. So if you go back to that episode that I released about God trains us and domesticates us like horses, there was that example horse that was perfectly integrated with the human trainer. It was the perfect specimen. It was the horse that other horses looked to because it's a horse. It's not a human. When the colt is being trained and it's freaking out because it's dealing with this alien presence of this otherworldly alien presence that is this human being. It's freaking out and it doesn't know where to turn to, so it turns to another horse that looks at it and says, "Hey, buddy, guess what? I'm you. I am you." And it's so perfect of a message, because here I was for 3 years putting God on a pedestal, as is deserved, right? I mean, it's God, y'all. It's everything that's good in the universe and everything that is wholesome and amazing and beautiful, and all the love and all the beauty and all the glory. Y'all, love and beauty are only just a tiny part of glory. The glory is something that we don't even know, y'all. And if there's anything that God is, it is glory. Okay. And we're going to find out the true breadth and true scope and scale of that glory soon enough. Okay. But that is something worth putting on a pedestal. But here is his representative on the planet Earth, y'all. A living God looking you in the face and saying, hey, why are you putting me on this pedestal? Why? I am you and you are me. You either come up here on this pedestal with me, or I'm coming down there with you. Either way, I am you and you are me. If I can do it, y'all, you can do it. Unbelievably beautiful, astoundingly powerful message. Now, I told a friend of mine that has been, we've been bouncing these ideas. Like we're in disagreement about Jesus, we're in agreement for the stuff that oh man, I was about to say for the stuff that matters. We're in agreement on a lot of things about Jesus, but there's some very important stuff that we're kind of in disagreement about, specifically about justice and all this other stuff, right? I have my version, he has his version. But we do see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. But regardless, I approached him after this amazing realization, y'all. And I asked him, I said, hey man, we're in agreement that Jesus is like the best thing ever, right? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, totally. What is the most inspirational thing about Jesus? Was it that Jesus was God, or was it that Jesus was a man? And I take a long pause there because there's only one answer to that question, y'all. There isn't two. The only way for the horse and maverick equation to work, y'all, is that a colt can look at another horse for inspiration, for the way to do things, for something to aspire to. It's the only way it works. The only answer to that question, y'all, is that Jesus was inspiring because he was a man. Period. And it's very easy for these New Age mystic types, and I really hate to keep calling y'all that, y'all. I don't even know what to call you because I'm essentially one of you now too. But I'm just going to keep calling them the New Age mystic types, right? The ones that believe that we are all God, you are God, I am God, we are God, etc. I can feel y'all like shaking your heads and being like, no, dude, you're only getting part of it. You're only understanding half of the equation here, which is like, Jesus was a human being, right? But here's the thing, Jesus was God too. And if he's looking at you and saying, if I can do it, you can do it, and he's making that equality here, and saying, I am you and you are me, then that also equally means that we have the power within us, y'all, to ascend to the level, again, I'm not going to go all the way there yet, but we can ascend to a level where we are on a similar footing of God. Okay? And it just makes perfect sense when you think about it, because if Jesus looks at you and says, I am life, if you look at any life around you, any life, a tree, a blade of grass, a bug, a person, a group of people, he is the essence that gives, that animates otherwise, dead matter, essentially, y'all. And so if that thing that is life itself is looking at you and saying, I am you and you are me, it just makes perfect sense that's the truth. What else could it be? And so to me, any doubt now of, the sanctity of, I'm trying to put God and Jesus on a pedestal, but it's really us that we need to put on a pedestal, y'all, because that thing is looking at us and saying that he is us. It's amazing. It's absolutely freaking amazing. We seem to be shackled and trapped down here in this existence, and maybe we can't fully reach the full potential or something. But once we breach the divide, once we hit that that threshold of death, and we which is basically just a birth, a reverse birth, that you get birthed into this spiritual realm. That's when we're going to be able to reach our full potential. And on that side, y'all, you had better freaking believe that we are capable of things that you can never imagine. But of course, the riddle here is that there still seems to be a degree of separation. There still seems to be a horse that's separate from me. Like, I'm the colt and it's the perfectly integrated specimen. It is Maverick. Okay. There's still that degree of separation, but that thing nonetheless is looking at me and saying, I am you and you are me. Okay. So it's one thing that I have become comfortable with is uncomfortableness or discomfort, or rather that's the word. I've become comfortable with discomfort in the sense that paradox seems to rule the day. Okay. If you are an aspiring mystic or aspiring spiritual person, you want to get into the knowledge and workings of God and existence and stuff, you had better be comfortable with paradox. And that's exactly what this is. So to me, there's still a degree of a separation, so to speak, in terms of I cannot manifest something like changing the speed of light. Okay, like, yeah, I think it was in my last episode, I said, something to the effect of like, hey guys, I can't manifest a Lamborghini in my garage, right? Well, one of these new age mystics can come along and say, sure you can. What you do is you manifest these little micro things in your life that make you more successful, right? And then lo and behold, you keep manifesting these little micro things, and next thing you know, you're rich enough to where you can afford a Lamborghini, and whammo, it's in your garage now. You just manifested that. Well, that's not what I mean, y'all. What I mean is from the ether, assembling like blinking my eyes and assembling all the subatomic particles that constitute a Lamborghini and instantly making that thing appear in my garage. Okay, now that's incredibly far-fetched and a little hard to imagine, but here's something a little more, well, this is still pretty far out there too. In fact, very far out there. You take basic laws of physics, okay? And when I say basic, they're basic only insofar as they're well known, okay? But imagine trying to change the speed of light in a vacuum, okay? To try to change that axiom in the universe by means of manifestation is freaking impossible, okay? Now, again, maybe we haven't ascended to that level of power yet, and that it is possible, but I don't think it is. Okay. And so even though Jesus is looking at me and saying, hey, I am you and you are me. If I can do it, you can do it. I was subject to the same struggles and I overcame them. I had the same battles and everything. And I won the battles by keeping faith and staying true to myself and others. Even that, y'all, to me, there is some degree, there is some mystery and some riddle here that still remains, where I cannot blink my eyes and a Lamborghini materialize in my garage. I cannot blink my eyes and change the speed of light in a vacuum. I always love throwing out the Selma Hayek one. I can't blink my eyes right now and have Selma Hayek appear right next to me, dressed up in that little outfit that she was in Dogma, in the stripping scene back in 1999 when she was her absolute hottest. I can't. Oh boy, I sound like a total perv. I'm a recovering perv, y'all. What can I say? I can't blink my eyes and have her pop up here right now. Okay. I can't even do that with my own wife, y'all. Like, forget Selma Hayek. I'm a happily married man, but my wife right now is having lunch with her friends. I can't blink my eyes and have my wife appear here in that same Selma Hayek outfit, which would be super freaking hot, because I can actually do something about it. I can't do that. So are we back to square one? No, we're not. I'm not back to where I was, y'all. I'm still leaning on the side. I'm meeting the New Age mystics halfway, and I'm saying like, yes, okay? But I'm also saying that there could be something else and something more. But I have met you more than halfway here. And I want everyone to remember this message because it's very important. If I can do it, you can do it. If there's anyone out there right now suffering from a severe addiction, man, I don't even care what that addiction is, y'all, because I could get on my high horse here, no pun intended, and I could tell you that sex addiction is the most extreme form of addiction imaginable. It is constantly in your face all the time, okay? When you're a heroin addict, there aren't people running around the streets with heroin needles, like shooting little drops of heroin into the sky in front of your face. With sex addiction, the equivalent of that is happening all the time, y'all. A woman who's wearing just tight pants is enough to drive a sex addict crazy. Okay, a woman wearing just a slightly revealing blouse. Enough to that doesn't even have to be revealing, y'all. They could be wearing a full freaking burqa, and the way the fabric hits your body as you move, a sex addict will be able to determine what's going on underneath that burqa, and his imagination will run wild. In fact, a lot of times it's even hotter for there to be more mystery. So when I'm telling you that I understand what addiction is, y'all, believe me. And when I'm telling you that if I can do it, you can do it, understand that I'm not perfect. Understand that I'm still struggling. Understand that I still slip up. But y'all, over the past couple months, I have made progress, the likes of which I can't even imagine were possible. I could not even imagine. I hate to bring pride into this because I think pride is a disgusting thing. I think it's the most hell-worthy concept imaginable. But there's only one form of pride, y'all, that we should cherish and relish and love and want. And that is the pride of becoming and getting closer to God. And if sacrifice and walking away from sin and stuff like that is that, well, I got to tell you, I'm proud of myself despite my slip-ups. I'm not a maverick yet. I don't know if being a maverick is even possible, but I am working hard every day to reach that ideal. And if I can do it, you can do it. Thank you very much. That's all I got for today. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to throw a little Easter egg in here for all of my loyal followers, all like 2 of you who listen to my full episodes. I see the statistics and stuff, and I see that most people drop off after like 5 minutes of listening. So for those of you who may have joined for the first time and you actually do want to hear some in the trenches, psychedelic, in the moment stuff, and for those of you who are loyal listeners, I'm going to throw this Easter egg. This is me taking ayahuasca about a week and a half ago. Or no, it's more like two and a half weeks ago now. I got my hands on the last little bit of its kind, ayahuasca, the same kind of batch and brew that I cut my teeth on ayahuasca, the only ayahuasca I've ever taken. I've gotten a hold of basically the last of its kind. And I got I think it was something like 10 ounces of it or something. And so I had a lot to work with. I hadn't had ayahuasca in a long time. So I decided to do like a little mini session and take 3 ounces. And I'm going to play you now one of the most impactful moments of that experience. I recorded it on a voice memo on my cell phone. And it's very much in line with what we've been discussing, today. So I'm going to play you a snippet of that now. Here we go. And before I get into this here, just remember that it is well established and well documented that Jesus Christ communicates to me through song lyrics. Okay, the past like 3 episodes have been unbelievable, jaw-dropping examples of that fact. Okay, so it's not a question of if, it's a question of how pertinent this particular moment in this particular song and the particular lyrics are. Okay, and in this particular instance, just like every other one, it was incredibly, amazingly pertinent. So that's kind of how we're starting off here. So let's jump in.
Let's read this whole freaking song, shall we? Oh, people always ask me what it's like to love everybody. What it's like to love everybody, they ask me. I tell them, don't be crazy. There's too many people around me. If I loved them all, they'd break me, you see. But if I'm being honest, it feels like each moment is loving at first sight. Oh, I love how your looking looks inside. Oh, I'm never changing, but in the reflection reflected in your eyes. Oh, the magic of being packaged feels amazing. To be free, an illusion. In an illusion of your making of me. To be free in deception, in a deception not created by me. So you see, it's me that I am loving, though not the me that is talking, the one that lives in all of those other minds. Oh, how I love her dearly. She never misses a beat. She's pirouetting blithely in the sky. She is free. Beautiful. Well, God, the question is, are we entitled to happiness in this existence? I'm inclined to say entitlement is a big entitlement. I'm sitting down now because entitlement is critical. It sounds like it seems that I'm being told that entitlement is a critical. Oh yeah. Whoa, buddy. Here we go. Here we go. Just gonna check something. Something was awakened. Let's just look at myself in the mirror here. Everything looks okay. Aside from a bizarre, almost perfect symmetry yet asymmetrical. But let's get lost in this. Because I can take it. I can take this answer because Jesus Christ is in me. And He's in all of us. We can take anything with that knowledge. And with that fact and with that reality, we can take anything. So let's talk about entitlement. Are we entitled to happiness? The answer is a resounding yes. Anyone who says otherwise is the enemy. The answer is an emphatic, resounding yes. Let's get lost in this. I can take it because I have Jesus in me. I am not Him, but He is in me. And He's in all of us. He is not a he. Is life a he? He had to get crammed down into something, And a he is what he got crammed into. But he is not a he. He is we. He is we. So you want to talk about entitlement? If there was anyone who was entitled, it was him. And he is saying that he is us. That he is we. You want to talk about entitlement? That is the... I'd do it all again, he says. I would do it all again, he says. And it's okay. It's more than okay. It is what it is. What did Joe Biden say? Well, it is what it is because he who is he who he is who he is. That's why it is what it is. It is what it is because he is who he is. That's why it is what it is. That's what he was trying to say. Anyways, I'm not gonna. I could go down a rabbit hole on that, or I could continue this rabbit hole of beauty, which is this concept of entitlement. And it is what it is because he is who he is. That's why it is what it is. Yes, we are entitled because he is who he is. And he is we. There's not a separation. Hold on. We need to stop. We need to stop right there.